That's what they say. Every day is another gallon. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Canada.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. It's getting hot, Jeff.
Getting hot. It's been hot, my bro.
Baby, it is getting hot. We are reading all kinds of things. Record temperatures everywhere.
Yeah.
The sky is on fire. The ocean is on fire. The ocean's literally on fire.
The ocean is literally on fire.
Which is cool. Which is super dope.
Tuesday here in America. Here's my question, though.
Yeah.
Were you aware? This was news to me. This was the shocker to me that there are thousands and thousands of people who live in these here United States and don't have air conditioning. Just don't have it.
Oh, Jeffrey, how interesting you mentioned that. I am aware of it. I did not have central air. I had central air when I was a kid, growing up in Florida. Florida is because Florida is relatively is not relative. I mean, it's not new, but a lot of the population and businesses in Florida came after Disney World. Was the real boom in population in Florida. And Disney World only exists in Florida because of air conditioning. Disney World simply could not exist in Florida without air conditioning. Yeah. So all of the homes in Florida and apartment buildings and things like that, air conditioning is just taken for granted. I mean, unless you live somewhere like St. Augustine or Gainesville, one of the older cities where it's like you may live in like a really old building and it's like, good luck, get yourself a window unit.
Right. But I mean, even window unit, I'm not even talking
window
central
unit
air.
sucks.
Window units does suck. I lived in an apartment in the Valley in Los Angeles for years that only had a window unit, and you have to sit within 3 inches of the window unit to get any effect of it. But this
not
tragic
even window
thing.
Unit.
Yeah, this tragic thing that's happening. These people are dying because there's literally no air conditioning whatsoever. They've lived for years and not needed it.
So I didn't have air conditioning again. I mean, I had window units in apartments, but I didn't have central air again until 2 years ago as an adult.
Really?
2 years ago. You remember the place where we first started recording, my old house?
Yeah.
That place had no central air. We were running a window unit. And
every window had a unit.
Listen, a unit in every window, a chicken in every pot. That's what they said. And you remember
really
you
kind
come
of
over
counteracts things because there's so much heat from the chickens in the pots.
So much heat from the pot. That's the
what
problem.
Are you doing? You're just like you're one step forward, 2 steps back with those chickens in the pots. You know what I'm saying?
But you got to have your chicken.
You got to have your chicken. Yeah. You got to cook
Chris
near the
Hemsworth
windows.
tells me that. Chris Hemsworth tells me that on his health app on the Circle.
Yeah.
But you remember you would come over and in that back garage that we would record in, I would run the AC for like an hour before you showed up.
Yeah.
You would show up. It would be freezing in the room. Within 15 minutes, we would be boiling.
We would be sweating. Yeah.
It was a misery.
It was a misery. But we did
sort
it.
Of the thing.
We did it for the listeners.
We did do it for the listeners. We did it for you. So maybe if you haven't been to patreon.com/we have concerns yet, you can check it out. But no, it's a heat wave. Things are messing up everywhere. We're seeing power cables for cable cars in Portland are melting. Infrastructure is breaking down, like roads are collapsing, stuff like that because of the heat.
Yes. Dogs and cats.
As you know,
living together.
Here on We Have Concerns, an award-winning science comedy podcast, we all believe in climate change. We don't. That goes without saying. We're intelligent people.
We're not going to be idiots here.
But this is a story that was brought up in the Patreon or in the Discord, which all patrons have access to, by Shamstron. Thank you, Shamstron. I believe this may be a first timer, Shamstron. Welcome.
I don't recognize that name, but I love it. Shamstron.
Shamstron was bringing up, what is this doing? You were talking about physical health. We're talking about infrastructure. Obviously we're talking about natural disasters being on the uprise. What does this do though, Jeff, to our behavior when it gets hotter than we are built for?
Oh, not good. My understanding, it's not good. My understanding is the hotter it gets, the worse you behave. It doesn't like crime go up during heat waves.
Are you basing that on your toddlers?
I'm basing it on my toddlers.
Are you watching them just
my,
melt down and scream?
My knowledge of West Side Story. Doesn't West Side Story, isn't there a lot of heat and then the snapping starts?
Yeah, they snapped to make a breeze to get rid of the heat.
Yes. Which is
it's
good.
the most
it's
efficient way to
science.
make a breeze.
Yeah, you just snap your way out of it.
This is a study. You're correct. I mean, I don't know about crime specifically, but here's what I can tell you. This is a paper published by in the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it says that we get more violent as temperatures go up above 80 degrees. If we don't have climate control, if we don't have somewhere to like cool down, extreme high temperatures have a 20% increase in violent acts. We get violent.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool down. You're running hot.
You're running
they used
hot.
To say. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because this study was run. They were thinking to themselves, how do we control this study? Right? Because if you think about it, you're like, okay, well, we want to see what it's like when people don't have climate control. Well, that can change for different populations in different countries and different cultures, different economic backgrounds. So how do we control for this? How do we come up with a control population? And you're going to love this, Jeff, and you're going to hate it. The controlled population is literally the incarcerated.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because, listen, prisons in the United States are fucking nightmares. They're horrible.
Yeah.
They're not, listen, they're
No
not made for
central air.
rehabilitation. They're not made for rehabilitation. They're simply not.
Sure, of course not. Yeah, no, because you know what they're made for? The profit of the private prison companies. That's what they're made
right.
for. They're made for expansion and growth.
That's right. They are.
If you
a job market.
if you rehabilitate people, there'll be fewer customers for your prison.
That's right, and you will have fewer. I mean, we don't want to call it forced labor, Jeff, but there are people doing a lot of forced labor for the states.
Well,
in prisons.
This is a whole other thing that's been in the news lately about California and our preparation for wildfires because of COVID, they haven't been using the prison population as easy labor to clear brush and prepare for wildfires.
Aren't they about 20-30% of our emergency firefighters are prison incarcerated firefighters?
My own father-in-law, who was a fire captain for many years, one of his primary roles was in wrangling the inmates. One of his whole jobs was like leading battalions of inmates in dealing with wildfires.
And what's crazy is after they get all this training and they deal with some of the biggest and most dangerous wildfires in the state, unpaid, they are not allowed to be firefighters after they get out of prison because they have criminal records. So prisons are bad.
Anthony, they shouldn't have had that 16 ounces of pot on them.
That's
they didn't want to be libeled, unemployable.
16. It was like an ounce, my dude. It was something like an ounce or a half ounce when it was criminalized. Yeah, anyway, you can get it delivered on an app now. So the thing is, these prisons are bad, and there is legislation, nationwide legislation that says prisons should have climate control. They absolutely should. Everybody agrees. Right. It is not hard to get everybody to agree that we shouldn't be murdering prisoners by giving them heat stroke. We agree.
Yeah, that seems like a gimme. Obvious one.
States' rights, baby. And a lot of these states that run these private prisons, a lot of the states that you would think, your Mississippi's, which is where this study was done, your Arkansas's, your Florida's, my home state. I'm super, super sorry. They have state laws that override those laws
That's
for
to say
state
you don't
penitentiaries.
need to cool down the prisons.
They say economically, it's not feasible. But also, like, listen, it's also used to control the population. It's used as punishment. It's used because a lot of people in a lot of states, Texas in particular, is just like, why should they get air conditioning? Why should they get comfort? That's an underlying American philosophy about the prison system. Why should they have any comfort? They're being punished.
Right. Yeah.
Which listen, you punish your kid, you send them to their room. You know what's in their room? All their stuff and air conditioning and whatever. Sit and think about what you've done.
Not my kid's room.
But sit on your bed and think about what you've done. Yeah, fuck them.
I make my kid's room is bare concrete.
Yeah.
On the floor.
A bucket for washing.
Bucket for washing. No windows. No wish. One tiny chair and a toilet in the room.
Hey.
The toilet is in the room.
Family values. That's what that is. A return to good old American family values. So the horrible thing about this study is all of these horrible things we just said. The good thing about this study is, hey, baby, that's a controlled population.
So wait, are you saying that they are comparing the prison population of people who don't have climate control to the prison population of people that do?
Bingo.
Okay. So they're going prison to prison.
And everybody who is participating, all of these prisoners are living essentially the same life. So
right.
It's an economic control.
It's a real control. Yeah.
It's it's literal control. We are literally controlling these people.
If by science you mean dispassionate, lack of empathy, pure clinical research, works out pretty good. You know?
Yeah. There are very few variables in this. It is a nightmare for all of them. And, but what they found was like, hey, because people are like, no, we shouldn't, like, there are legitimate reasons above and beyond, like, hey, just the general, listen, obviously the general decent treatment of people is not something a lot of people care about. So how do you get them to care? You say, hey, do you know that if you air condition this prison, the prisoners will be less violent and you will have fewer incidents, and they can't have those incidents, Jeff. Now, there is a problem with this that they don't talk about. And the problem with this is that violence in prisons is both strangely over-reported and under-reported, if that makes sense. Certainly violence that involves any of the staff is underreported and underplayed. Violence that is about prisoner to prisoner is sort of overreported. Like, look, we have to keep these people in line because look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
So there are some issues, and they do, they kind of talk about that a little, but they don't talk about it much because they're not trying to make too much trouble for themselves, I can tell in this study. But the thing that was interesting is, for every degree it goes up, it's a logarithmic scale. Like,
wow.
It's basically just like, it's a hockey stick, man. It's a slope, and you can see it because sometimes these prisons get up over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which if you are somebody who in the rest of the world, that is 7,824 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's
according
real
to
hot.
my math.
Mm-hmm.
It's real hot.
We don't know much here in the United States, but I think that tracks.
I don't know anything about anything. But I was thinking about this, and it's like, well, this is interesting because obviously they're presenting it as something about prisons, and obviously, look, in a desperate situation like a prison, people are a little bit more prone to get violent, right? But I mean, let's talk about what this means for all people. We're talking about something that's 20% uptake in violent incidents. What does that mean? That means for the average person, if we take that number 1-to-1, that's 20% more irritable behavior. That's 20% more anger, probably 20% more depression. All of this stuff based on increased heat.
Is this just the function of the human organism that we don't like being above a certain temperature? It causes us external stress, and so we lash out in violent ways. Is that the conclusion here?
I think so. I mean, if you look at your kids,
I
things
try not
that
to.
try not to just put them in their room, which has more than enough. It has a wash towel. They've got everything they need.
It got that toilet. It's got that rickety bed and box springs.
It's got everything they need.
They get time in the yard twice a day. 15 minutes of running around in the yard twice a day, and then back to the room.
Baby, the president's physical fitness medal just says you need 30 minutes of activity a day. They're getting it.
They're getting it right there.
But if you look at children, one of the biggest things in early childhood education and one of the biggest things in early parenting is teaching children self-regulation, teaching children to understand, no, you're not sad, you're hungry. No, you're not angry, you're tired.
Right.
Are you really mad at me for this, or are you sad about this, right? And we think that once we teach that to ourselves as children, or once we teach that to our children, we good. We ain't good, my dude.
Yeah.
That continues.
It's something that as soon as you start noticing it in yourself, you can't not notice it in yourself, right? When you realize, oh my gosh, my behavior I didn't just decide to get mad. I didn't just get annoyed at that. I wouldn't get annoyed at that every moment of every day. It's my lack of sleep, my lack of food, my lack of energy. It is all of these other imbalances in my biochemistry in this particular moment that is manifesting as behavior. And
man, I'll tell you, when you are in a heat wave, we used to have these massive, massive heat waves in New York, and New York is not built for central area. Right. And we had the window units, but we also had, these old buildings that weren't properly insulated. We had like single pane windows that didn't like shut After a week of like 95 degree temperatures, 100 degree temperatures, where no matter where you go, it's 100 degrees. No matter what you do, it's 100. You simply cannot get comfortable.
Right.
You can't sleep. It messes with your appetite. It messes with everything. It's total dysregulation. And everybody gets so, listen, summer in New York, everybody talks about how you're either fucking or fighting.
Well, I was just going to bring that up, actually, because we're talking about violence and these sort of negative connotations. But I've also remember reading studies about how surges in heat lead to little mini baby booms because people be fucking.
I mean, it's all kinds of dysregulation, right? Because I think about like what happens. My entire, my ADHD is entirely a type of dysregulation in my brain. So like, it's not, when I don't take my Adderall, it's not just, oh, I can't focus. Certain activities go up. I am more prone to like go out drinking and have a few and like have one or two more than I normally would. I'm more likely to make impulsive purchases, right? I'm more likely there's just less thinking and more impulsivity. When there's that frontal lobe, that executive function of your brain. And in children, it isn't developed. And in adults, when we can't access it, when it's too much energy to access it, it fails us. We start doing that. We start doing the dumb shit, baby. Yeah. It's the dumb shit.
Yeah. So is the conclusion here that we need to regulate climate as sort of I don't want to say human right, but as a sort of conscious effort to
Jeff, say human right. Go ahead and say it.
So is that the conclusion of this study? Is that what they're kind of coming to?
The conclusion of this study is simply, as heat goes up, people get more violent. That's all. As heat goes down, people get less violent. Do with that what you will.
It's interesting that the other end of the spectrum, which I would presume is equally uncomfortable and disruptive, if you are cold to the point of agony or unrest, why does that not result in erratic behavior in the same way heat does?
I bet it does. I mean, the study doesn't go into that, but I would imagine it does. I've been, once again, like if you go, I was staying in this hostel in Iceland many, many years ago.
It has ice right in its name.
It has ice. Well, Jeff, let me tell you something. That's a trick.
What?
If you want the ice, you got to go to Greenland. And if you want
what if I want green?
You go to Iceland.
What the fuck?
Crazy, right?
This is crazy.
But I was in the northern part of Iceland. I was staying in a hotel.
What if I want Newfoundland?
Oh, there's a whole land for that. Don't worry.
Do I go to Newfoundland?
Yeah.
It's
Although
not a trick.
Technically, it's one of the oldest foundlands at this time.
I knew there was a trick.
Yeah, at this point, like it's one of the older foundlands. But we were staying in this hotel, which is essentially just like an upscale hostel. And we got in there, and they just sort of apologized. They're like, "We left you some extra blankets because the shit's not working." And we're like, "Oh, the shit's not working." They're like, "Shit's not working." And man, you get so irritable in the cold. New York was the same. Like New York was the same way. If I had to do like so many errands in a day in the cold, you're fucking irritable.
But is there something? I mean, I'm totally basing this on intuition and anecdotes, so it could be completely off base. But is there something about the way that heat expands is a sort of an accelerant, and cold it contracts and is sort of it like compresses the body? And
what are you, an ancient Greek? Are you talking to me about steam? Are you talking to me about steam and humors right now?
Yeah.
I love it. I love this.
I mean, is there something to that? Is there something about heat leading to violence where cold it sort of shuts you down? And
here's the other thing that I would talk about there, Jeff, is I would say I think it depends on your genetic makeup and where you live and where you were raised, right? If you were raised in cold and your body acclimates to cold, or you're descended from people who are a little more built for the cold, I would imagine that heat really, really gets to you. I would imagine if you were raised in heat, it's all about, I think what this is about more than anything, more than the heat specifically, is about your body's internal regulation and comfort zone and your physiological reactions to that. If you take somebody who's from somewhere hot and you put them in the cold, I bet that's more distressing for them physically and mentally than putting them somewhere that's like a few degrees even warmer. I think
it feels so good when they go back in the heat, though. If you go if you're from the heat and then you go in the cold for a few minutes and then you go back to the heat, it just makes the heat feel so much better, doesn't it?
Shout out to Finland. Are you listening? I think the real importance of this study is that we don't need to worry about cold so much because the world ain't getting colder.
Yeah.
That's the broader concern.
It does.
Until it gets extremely cold, but you and I will be dead.
Yeah. That's the good part.
For the next lifetime or two, we're worried about the effects of heat. And of course, the issue with adding more climate control to the world is we exacerbate the conditions that cause this heat.
Oh, it's the rub. In order to cool things down, we have to heat things up.
We go back to that episode where we talked about the people who wanted to air condition the ice caps. That might be the answer. But I think
in the pre-show we were talking about, we referenced Brewster's Millions, and it just reminds me of that guy. Remember that guy that scene where Richard Pryor is getting people pitching him all these wacky ideas on how to spend his money because they sense that this dude will just spend money on anything. And there's the guy who's like talking about saving the icebergs by putting little propellers on all of them and pushing them through the water.
Yeah.
It's like he's got like a model of an iceberg. He's like, we put little propellers on all of them.
I love it. So good. I mean, and it's stupid because there's a real version of that that's making its way around the scientific community right now. But I mean, like this says a few things. When you say climate control is a human right, I think that's something that we do need to talk about, because the things that are provided, particularly in the United States, have fallen behind. We all agree, like, you know, we just had a national emergency for a year and a half, and we all agree, oh, we can't leave people in this national emergency without electricity. It turns out we can absolutely afford to just give you electricity if we need to. Turns out we can absolutely afford to just give you water if we need to. Why are we not doing that? Because shut up.
Yeah.
You know,
it's capitalism, boy. Well, yeah, that's the thing that was, I mean, kind of where we started on this conversation, is that it was such a shock to me that there's so many people living in the Pacific Northwest who just live their whole lives without air conditioning. And all of a sudden, here's this heat wave of unprecedented intensity.
Yeah.
And hundreds of people are dying off because they just have no way to endure it. And that just seems like it was a shock to me, because the idea of having no access to a way to cool yourself down, as somebody who lives in California, and you know, the heat can get so intense that it's just unlivable. It just seems like, wow, there are places in the world where people live and they just don't worry about it getting too hot. Yeah. Until, of course, it does. And that's what we're seeing.
I mean, I have relatives in like Cleveland, and relatives in upstate New York and all this stuff. They don't have air conditioners. I mean, they didn't when I was a kid. They do now. Yeah. They do now because of the last, 20, 30 years. It's all just been like a skyrocket. But like, yeah, it's sort of like, oh, it's summer. Open your window.
Yeah.
Like that's the way it used to be in those places. You know, you live in Portland. Oh, it's summer. Open your window. But over the last 20 years, it's like, you can't open your window. It's 113 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And even if you have the means to like buy a window unit or something like that, people will tell you, by the time you realize you need one, they're fucking sold out.
Yeah, it's too late. And there's already a chicken in your pot. And you got to cook it.
You got to cook it because you got to have your chicken. You got to have a lean protein. Chris Hemsworth says you have to have a lean protein. All he eats is just chicken and brown rice and just grass from his lawn.
He just grazes all day.
He says he gets most of his calories through lean boiled chicken and grazing in his own yard. That's the Thor workout.
That's the Thor. Yeah.
That's the Thor workout. That's how you do it. We're running a little.
I got to start grazing.
Before we move on, I do want to mention we're doing a little fitness. By the way, speaking of the Thor workout, we are doing a little fitness challenge in the Discord. I don't know if you've seen.
I did see that. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we've decided hey, listen, for the last year and a half, we've all been in a position where we have been hiding in our escape pods.
The position has been horizontal, is what the position has been.
And now the world is opening up.
Fetal.
And so we are started a little challenge. I'm doing couch to 5K. Every time I get out of shape, I like to do couch to 5K to get back into shape. Running is for dicks. It's the worst. I hate it. I'm 2 weeks into it. And I will get all the way through it, and it will be a misery. And the nice thing is, there are a bunch of other people, a bunch of concerned citizens in the Discord, and we are all being each other's accountability buddies and cheerleaders, and it's real lo-fi. It's about just getting used to moving in the world again. Some people are doing couch to 5K. Some people are just biking a little bit more. Some people are going out for walks, but we're just making sure that we're getting up and we're moving and we're acclimating ourselves to this society that is opening back up again. So if you want to join us, you can do so on our Discord that is provided for patrons. If you support the show at $1 a month or more, you get access to the whole server. We've got a bunch of amazing channels and discussions going on in there, everything from games to science, to literal bird pranks, to movies, to books, the whole dang thing.
The takeaway here is that the people who are in there are fantastic people.
Yeah.
And they will support you. They will encourage you. They will discuss things with you. It's all about community when it comes to lean proteins. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, if you want to graze with us. And if you want to find out how to do that, head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Anthony, I got a story here that is pretty mind-blowing, and I think the ramifications of it are going to be far-reaching and pretty spectacular. But it's kind of dense.
Tell me more.
We were talking about heat and cooling and moving water, drinking water, having water. This is about moving water. And
okay,
a new technique that has just been published in the journal Nature. This was a story that was posted on our aforementioned Discord by, now, I love this name, but it can go two ways. It is either music alchemist or musical chemist.
Oh.
You know, is it, what do you think? Is it musical chemist or music alchemist? Or is that the whole point? Is that it could be, it's a portmanteau.
Tell me what the story is. I feel like the story is going to be a clue. Because is it about traditional chemistry, or has he perhaps found a way, finally, to turn the very ether that surrounds us into golden doubloons?
I wish it was that. It is not that. This is about.
Then it's musical chemist.
This is something called cellular fluidics. Basically, the idea here is that
this sounds like a supplement that somebody is going to advertise to me on Instagram.
You got to have your cellular fluidics.
Listen, Chris Hemsworth says.
A lot of people will tell you can get by on grazing alone, Anthony. I'm here to tell you there's something else. There's something most people ignore. Yes, you got to have your lean proteins. Certainly, you got to graze. You got to graze from now and then. But too many people are ignoring their cellular fluidics.
And here's the thing: Hemsworth is like, look, level 1, you're doing it. But if you're not reaching that Asgard form that you need, then it's time. It's time not just to do the workouts, not just to graze. You might be ready for cellular fluidics.
Yeah. And, take our pamphlet. We'll learn more. Let me tell you what this is. So the idea here is that there are a lot of things that we use liquid to do that are about the surface area of that liquid interacting with, say, a gas or some other substance, right?
Give me an example.
Like, let's say, clearing out CO2 from giant factories that are producing CO2. We run liquids across the gases that they are emitting and draw out the CO2 and then sort of strip it out of the water. And that's not water, but the liquid later, and have the ability to reuse the CO2.
So let me see if I'm understanding. Let's say we have a smokestack, right?
Yes.
We've got a smokestack at a factory, and there's CO2 just hanging around in the smokestack or whatever.
Yes.
We run liquid through it to push the CO2 out, or to mix the CO2 with the liquid.
You mix the CO2 with the liquid so that the interaction of the liquid and the CO2 draws the CO2 into the liquid. Maybe a clearer.
Why do we have smokestacks?
Let me give you a clearer example.
Yeah,
Let's say you want to cool down your microprocessor in your computer.
Oh, okay.
One way to do that is to run liquid through it.
Yes.
And the heat dissipates through the surface where the surface interacts with the air, right? It has to dissipate in some way. Right.
The top, my awesome pump that I have, my pump with my RGB is constantly pumping water in a circle, and it pumps water in a circle over the top of my CPU, and it's taking that
really hot.
It's taking that heat that's radiating off the CPU,
right,
and it's putting it into the water and pushing it through a fan, and it keeps it cool.
And the only way it gets that heat is when the surface area of the water interacts with the surface area of the heat, basically.
Jeff,
right?
I think unbeknownst to us, we might have come up with a solution for the first story with the second story. Jeff, I envision to you, I present to you a hat.
Ooh, a cooling
hat with a pump. Now imagine, Jeff, it's a helmet with cooling
tubes. Does it have
tubes.
2 beers on it? Does it have 2 beers?
Now it's based upon that technology, Jeff, but no one has improved upon that technology for years. It's been beers for years. I want to convince you that we can do more. Replace those beers, which are already cooling to the side of your head in the cup holders. Replace them with a tube. Okay, this is an airtight helmet.
Yeah, it draws water across the surface of your scalp. Is what you're saying?
Yes, and the 2 tubes go to your window.
You're tethered? You're tethered
window,
to a...
But they're long. They're long tubes. And they're connected to the window. And the window has a fan, Jeff, that's constantly pushing out into
You're saying this is exactly how a computer liquid cooling system works. Except
Jeff,
I'm the CPU.
You are the supercomputer you've been looking for. And the problem is you're simply not cooled enough.
We call it CPYOU.
For now,
CPU.
yeah, because there are no wrong answers in brainstorming, and I'm not here to shoot anything down at this stage.
CP stands for cooling people. You.
Cooling people? You. Think about it, Jeff.
Yeah.
Imagine that. And you're walking around your house.
Oh, no, this is great.
They're long tubes.
I feel like this hat, though, is more beneficial to people who don't have hair, the balds. You know what I'm saying? I feel like drawing the water across the surface of the head might be problematic with, big lock of hair.
So here's what I'm thinking. You think about a double-walled, double-cooled thermos, right?
Yes.
So the liquid doesn't actually touch your head. There's a chamber inside that you fill with ice and water or coolant.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like some sort of like cooling pad inside the hat.
Yes.
I like this. This could work.
I think it's great. It's like putting...
Other than the fact that you can't go, more than a few feet away from your window at any
You keep saying
time.
a few feet, and I keep telling you the tubes are long. It's like you're not listening to the important part where the tubes
we
are
got
long.
like coiled hoses around your house?
Yeah, man, but like... You're going to be so cool. You could...
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, remember in the early days of VR when people were putting the little hooks on their ceilings?
Me. I did that.
Yeah, to keep the...
I built that shit.
Yeah. We put the tubes through the hooks.
This is great. A series of hoists and pulleys.
Yeah, it's a pulley-based system. And it would keep you so cool, Jeff.
I think this is going to catch on.
I think so too.
I think people are going to rent houses based on the pulley placements.
Man, people are going to we're going to see people settle in places that they thought they couldn't we're going to be like, oh, I'll live in this neighborhood where like almost nobody lives because it's too hot and there's no there's no climate control because I've got my CPU. I don't want to call it too many times because then it'll stick. But it is the working title.
Well, even with the CPU,
yes,
the limitation on how efficient you can be in drawing the heat and dispersing the heat is how much surface area of the liquid you can expose to the thing. And traditionally, the way we draw, now you think about these tubes that we have in our CPU.
Yeah.
If you want to draw fluid, coolant, anything, any kind of fluid from one place to another, it's hard to do that because gases and liquids are not, you can't contain them unless you contain them, right?
Please don't tell me it's hard because I have already sent an email to the bank and I have asked for so much money.
No.
I told them we could do this.
Our ideas sound.
Great.
But in one sense, you have to contain a liquid on all sides in order to move it from place to place. This is the traditional idea of how you move liquids or gases from one place to another place. If you have holes in your tube, it'll leak out, right? The gas will leak out, the liquid will leak out. You'll have problems.
That's the number one thing I put on the prospectus is no holes.
No holes.
We got to make sure that there are no holes in the tube.
What if I were to tell you, Anthony, that there is a new breakthrough here in the journal Nature, whereby we can transport liquids and gases from place to place with porous materials, with things with holes all over them. And those gases and liquids will not escape.
Buddy, I'd say tell me more.
This could transform our entire prospectus. Here is the idea. They have managed to, using a new technique, heretofore impossible, or heretofore is in the future, right? Never before possible. Well, basically,
Gotcha.
there's new breakthroughs in 3D printing that allow you to create very, very tiny, precise patterns, laser 3D printing, and they have created a series of these little cubes that are little scaffolds that have holes on every side. So if you imagine like almost just the outline of a cube, where each surface, each side of the cube has a hole in it, right? So you just basically have this almost like a cage.
All right.
That it's only a millimeter wide on each side.
Okay.
And you have these little cubes. The surface tension of liquid and even gases, they can manipulate the size of these things at such a small scale that it will actually draw liquid up and through it. And the liquid surface tension will make it stick to other water molecules, other liquid molecules. I keep saying water, but it's a variety of liquids, not water. It will make the molecules of the liquid stick to each other because of surface tension instead of popping out of the holes of the scaffolding.
Why is this important? Why don't we just use tubes?
Because those holes allow you to expose the liquid to more surface area of the external thing you want to expose it to. So you're drawing it.
I think I'm seeing what you're saying. It's like when you pour a little bit of water into a thing and you've got that surface tension bubble, and you can kind of like wiggle it around, but it doesn't spill.
Right.
You're saying it doesn't come shooting out of the top, but because the top is a little bit exposed, we can expose more of the water to the cooling thing.
Well, okay.
Is that correct?
Kind of. Let me explain it to you this way. So
you're
let's
saying
say
cubes, not tubes.
Cubes, not tubes. So let's say you have a straw.
I'm going to have to call the bank.
Let's say you have a straw and you draw water through a straw.
Yeah.
The entire time it is going through the straw, it is contained inside the straw.
Correct.
No part of the surface area of the liquid is touching the air. Right?
But you're saying we make tiny enough holes in the straw where water doesn't come out of the straw.
Exactly. They have managed to create, I mean, you can't just poke holes in a straw. They've actually created this geometric shape.
You're my fucking dad.
They've actually created a geometric shape that maintains the surface tension of the water throughout that entire process. They can draw, I keep saying water. I got to stop doing that. I imagine it as water, but it's any liquid, right? So they're drawing the liquid, and they can actually, by varying the size. Dr. Pepper. Yeah. So let's say you want to move Dr. Pepper through a complex system and you want to expose as much Dr. Pepper to the open air as you can, or to anything, right? You expose it to heat or cool or whatever you want to do.
Call us Dr. Pepper.
You please sponsor the show, Dr. Pepper. For the love of God. So basically, if you have, replace the straw in your mind with like Lego bricks that are squares, but every side of the Lego brick is open to the air. So it's just the sky. It's like a crane, like a giant crane in New York City would have just bars and then open holes on every side of the crane. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's just the framework of a cube.
Now,
so every side of the cube is open.
Yeah. So you stack these cubes together or whatever, or you put them in a large sort of scaffoldy pattern, right? And we build our open Lego tube, right?
Right.
How do we control what direction the water goes through and what direction it doesn't go through?
Well, that's what's so brilliant about this is that they have actually figured out that by varying the sizes of these things, they can actually create patterns of movement. They can tell the liquid which direction to go.
Whoa.
So
like
you can create a system that is completely controllable, where you are moving fluids through a very specific direction, but the entire time the surface area of the fluid is like 3 times as affectable, right? So you have 3 times as many opportunities to interact with the surface area of the liquid. So instead of just the top and bottom of the straw, right? The top of the straw is open to the air. The bottom of the straw is open to the air. The entire length of the straw now is open to the air.
Okay. I like that.
It's extremely useful in a whole number of things, because it makes it so that now you can perform all these actions that we use liquids to do, but be way better at it and way more efficient. So, and they're talking about being able to use it in space, where you can move
no one can
these
hear you
things through.
scream.
Well, no one can hear you scream, but also there's no gravity to affect it in any way. And so you're just using the surface tension of the water, and you'll be extremely efficient because now you're not even fighting gravity at all.
What are they doing in space with that?
Well, there's a lot of reasons to move liquids through space, or gases for that matter.
Name 3 things.
Cooling or heating systems.
Okay.
We've talked about that.
I'll count that as 2.
They're talking about it in bioreactors that use bacteria to consume methane and excrete the just organic byproducts, so that you're not like, you can strip methane out of the air, out of gases.
Yeah.
They could create these little thin walls in reactors and improve the way that scientists are able to load bacteria into these systems.
Huh. I like it. I like this. This is one of those things that's like, this is one of those things that sounds very like simple and like, oh, okay, like, cool, I get it. But it's probably going to change like the basic way a lot of things are engineered.
They're basically saying that this is a total game changer for a variety of industries. And the way they came to this research was they basically looked at how trees do it, right? A tree draws water out of the earth and up through its roots, but it doesn't do it like you're sucking water out of a straw. It does it in this in this sort of vascular system that is extremely porous. And it turns out that the way plants do it is by sort of leveraging the surface tension of water and just sort of drawing water out in that way and distributing it through, into their leaves to do photosynthesis.
Wow. I've always wondered, I've always been like, how a really tall tree do that?
Right. Yeah.
How they do.
It's the same way, by the way, it's the same way like if you get like a super absorbent paper towel and you have a spill and you lay the paper towel on and you see the water like draw into the porous parts of the paper towel.
Right. And then it goes out. It radiates outward instead of like up through the towel.
Right. But the water is actually moving into the paper towel, right? It's drawn into it by filling those holes. And the holes are so small that the water moves from cell to cell, which is why this is called cellular fluidics.
Oh, you should have started with the paper towel thing.
I probably should have started with the
now.
paper towel thing. Yeah.
I mean, we were doing smokestacks and CO2 and shit. And like, baby, I get this paper towel thing. I use paper towels.
There you go.
I'm a man of the people. I use paper towels all the time.
So imagine a paper towel is just this big 2-dimensional surface of cells where the water is drawn into the cells. Now imagine creating a 3-dimensional system of cells. And that's all this is a 3-dimensional system where we can just pull the water up off the table and into basically a tube and put it wherever we want because we've got this
stacking
scaffolding.
A bunch of paper towels.
Well, or more like forming the individual cells of a paper towel into a
Did they just
architectural
invent stacking
system.
paper towels?
No. No, every commercial in the world is like, look at 3 paper towels. Look what 3 paper towels can do.
No, but they never stack paper towels in commercials. Are you crazy?
That's the bad one. That's the competitor's brand.
That's what I'm saying. Is you would never show that working.
The competitor's brand, you need 3 or 4 paper towels, but the quicker picker upper over here,
you need up to 17 and a half paper towels. And that's why no one thought it would work. And science was like, nah, they're lying to us. Bounty is lying to us. Big paper towel has got us under their thumb. We're going to find out what happens when you stack paper towels. And the answer is it's fucking dope.
It works.
Don't let Bounty lie to you.
Big Bounty.
Don't let Bounty
science
lie
for years.
Fucking trolling science.
The other really cool thing that they've accomplished with this tech is that they have created sort of hybrid with seeds, basically seedlings, where they create this scaffolding, this cellular faux root system that's completely 3D printed and plastic. And they put a seed in it, and the seed can actually use the cells of the artificial roots to draw water up and feed itself. And it sort of integrates into these little micro cells, these little micro architectural creations that they've 3D printed to create this hybrid organic synthetic
stack
creature.
Of paper towels.
Exactly. And if you do enough of them, I think you create a giant,
a golem
who wears a flannel shirt and talks to you all the time about cleaning up.
Oh my God.
Am I conflating the Jolly Green Giant with the Bounty Man? Is the Bounty Man a giant or is he just a man?
I think he's just a man. And is it Bounty that's the man, or is there another one that's the man? Because I was thinking Mr. the same
Clean.
thing.
Mr. Clean is a man.
No, there's a man. There's a sexy man that's got like the
Bounty's the sexy man. He wears a flannel shirt. He has a beard and a flannel shirt. And for a while I was thinking he's a giant, but I'm thinking that's just the Jolly Green Giant.
Yeah, no, Bounty's
and the Jolly Green Giant is.
Well, I wouldn't say Bounty's a regular sized man. I would say Bounty's a big man.
Well, he's a big man, but he's not like fantastic, right? He doesn't have superpowers.
No.
He's just sexy and on the large side, but he's not a fantasy creation other than some people's fantasy of a larger man who's sexy.
No, and he was always presented as just like the bounty man who can like, he provides the paper towel. He's a lumberjack and he's providing. Whereas Mr. Clean has some sort of nightmarish powers that allow him to scry at you from glass surfaces.
That's true. He does. He can scry at you. Yes.
He can, like, if he knows you or like has a particular or you buy one of his products, he can scry through the shiny surfaces of things.
Yeah, only if it's shiny enough though. If you have only dull surfaces, the Mr. Clean cannot perceive you.
That's why I keep my shit dirty.
I
keep my shit dirty so Mr. Clean can't see my shit.
It's a warding against Mr. Clean.
Yeah, exactly. Anything reflective, he's going to follow you.
Can you imagine being a sexy lumberjack who...
Yes.
I know you often do, but can you imagine being a sexy lumberjack who cuts down scores of trees only to turn them into absorbent paper towels? I feel like that's that's a big step between lumberjack cutting down a tree and then the result is just a paper towel.
Well, I think we're naturally drawing the connection that the bounty man dresses like a lumberjack and therefore must be cutting down these trees to create paper towels. But it's entirely possible that the bounty lumberjack man is simply a lumberjack professionally, and you don't know what you're cutting down the trees for. And he's simply an evangelist of bounty paper towels in his off hours.
It's just two parallel. One doesn't have anything to do with the other.
He
just happens
influencer.
to be a lumberjack. Yeah. He could have been an accountant or a school teacher. He really is into absorbent paper towels, but it doesn't no bearing on what his vocation is.
It's just his thing. It happens to be connected, but it's like it's weird that it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's cool.
So what have we learned?
So I did as I said when I pitched this, it's kind of dense, this concept, and how it can affect the world is pretty dense as well. But there are scores of
it seems
applications for this.
off the top of my head, if I'm being genuine, it sounds like for the procedures and the processes of things like you're talking about, like cleaning, cooling, scrubbing, it becomes much more efficient. But also, it sounds like because there is less tension, we will be using far less energy to draw liquids as well, which overall makes every machine more efficient, makes everything we're using require less energy, less power, less work to do so. So it sounds like something where everything is changed ever so slightly.
Yes, and there's a whole element of these what they call multi-phase processes, which is something like your lungs, in which you can have gases, liquids, and solids all interacting at the same time in the same system.
Okay.
And so your lungs basically do this because it's like capillary systems, right?
Yeah.
That it's just these little holes in your lungs that are drawing gas and liquid together in a solid. And so we basically, there's some hope that because we figured out how to do this, and because we now have the technology to micro print, that we can print stuff with enough precision at such a small scale that we can actually create artificial lungs that are able to operate like the human lung is.
God, just advances in manufacturing and printing over the last like 20 years.
Yeah.
Have fucking changed everything in ways that we don't even think about every day.
Yeah.
So nuts.
Here's a cool sentence from this article about how many things will be affected by this breakthrough. It says,
is it the coolest sentence? Give me the coolest sentence.
It says, researchers have said that this breakthrough technique could have transformative and broad-ranging impacts on numerous fields, including multi-phase processes, including electrochemical and biological reactors used to convert carbon dioxide or methane to energy, advanced microfluidics, solar desalination, air filtration, heat transfer, transpiration cooling, and the delivery of fluids in low or zero gravity environments. So that's a lot of different disciplines that are, obviously dense and kind of obscure sounding, but so many things use that stuff, need to do those things. And so this could really change the world.
Wow.
Pretty cool stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's going to make the CPU, it's going to make our helmet so
much
good.
better. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. They say it basically works like a sponge, or like we say, a paper towel.
Yeah.
But in those things, a sponge or a paper towel, the structure is unpredictable. So there's no way to know where the liquid is going to be absorbed into. And because now we can create a very specific system of these interconnected cells, we can decide where the water or liquid flows. And so you can control it. So imagine 3D printing a paper towel that just like absorbs water in a pattern. That's kind of a silly way, but it could theoretically be done.
That's nuts. I love it. Yeah. I'm going to call the bank again because they haven't gotten back to me yet, but I feel like
it's weird.
They want to be on the ground floor of this.
Did we remember to mail ourselves the idea so as to avoid anyone stealing it?
Right. The ultimate copywriting. Yes. I got to do that too. We got to get off the podcast so I can mail this idea to us and also call the bank again. Cause they haven't, I've sent like 4 emails while we've been recording and they haven't. So thank you everybody for joining us.
And stay tuned for how to pre-order your CPU.
Yeah. And remember, just because you listen to this podcast doesn't mean that you're part of it. You can't have part of this app. You can't have part of the app. You can't have part of the
It's an app now?
Well, it's going to be app controlled. Everything's app controlled.
Oh, got to be app controlled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how cool do you want your head?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So you remember that just because you were here when we talked about it doesn't mean that you're part of it. This is not a fucking Facebook situation. We don't owe you any percentage of it. But we also love you. And we thank you for listening, and we thank you for your continued support of the show.
Yeah.
And after we're billionaires,
we'll remember all of you. We'll remember all of you when we're sitting on that CPU money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And if you want to, listen, we're going to remember all of you, but we will especially remember people who suggest stories that we use on the show. So if you want to get in our good graces before the first billion, the best way to do it is either to jump on the Discord, which we talked about earlier. You can get access to that through patreon.com/wehaveconcerns, or email us at wehaveconcernshow@gmail.com, or use the subreddit, wehaveconcerns.reddit.com.
All good ways. All good ways.
Jeff, I'll see you in the fucking private yacht, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. We'll be wearing our CPUs, living that cool life.
CPU isn't compatible with boats yet. Don't tell anybody. It just keeps exploding. I don't know why. It makes no sense.
It really doesn't.
There's literally no reason. But if you put it on a boat, it explodes.
Yeah, which is not good for a thing you wear on your head, you know?
No.
But it's still in beta.
It's in beta. Get out on the ground floor. Send us feedback about how exploded your head got. Really help mold the product.